Well, hello, good evening. Welcome to Sports Today. Just a little while away then from the first two quarterfinals of Euro 2020. Of course, Switzerland taking on Spain and the two best teams of the tournament, Italy and Belgium, both of them, of course, unbeaten so far in Euro 2020. One of them have to go out. Who will that be? What is the composition looking like for all four teams? What is it at stake, especially for Spain after everything that they've gone through? I have with me to discuss all of this, of course, Chirag, Chinmoy, and Shuman. We're going to go straight into the first game, though. There's been a lot of talk about the Spanish team, the team selection. Again, we of course touched on that on several times on Sports Today. Today, I'll start with Shuman, and because we were just before the show, we were discussing how Shuman has been spot on with his predictions, and bringing in the favorites tonight. These three out of the four teams that they're playing, they were anyway, at least the two of they were pre-tournament favorites. Spain, we were all wondering what they would do, but it's been a happy ride so far if you're a fan of Spanish football. Then, but Shuman, plenty at stake for Spain. Plenty. We've discussed the players, we've discussed formations and what sort of lineups you'd expect. But what a story it'll be if Spain again go through to the last four and override all the controversial team selection, their threats to their players, the fact that they haven't done a lot since that 2008, 10, 12 era. That is going to be something spectacular for fans of Spanish football the world over.
Of course, Rajesh, hi. Both the games would be crackerjack of contests without a doubt. I mean, if you see the head-to-head of these two teams, the last three meetings between Spain and Switzerland, two had been one-all draw, and one had been won by Spain actually, and that's the first leg of the UEFA Nations League. Even in the last meeting, I mean, it was a one-all draw. It was played in Switzerland, but I mean, the contests had been absolutely riveting in the last 3-4 years between these two nations. Of course, I mean, a lot of permutations, combination. Both the teams would be having some different tactics. But one thing I would like to mention about today's game, Switzerland, they'd be starting high on confidence for 2-3 reasons. Of course, I mean, they defeated France, as you just mentioned. So one of the major things, but there'd be a big blow because Granit Xhaka would be suspended today because of the suspension, 2 yellow cards. He had been in the thick of things on the heart of the midfield, and that is the reason why his absence might be a crucial one for this game's course of the results and all. And more importantly, I think Zakaria would be playing in place of him. But Zakaria, if you see the last couple of years about his performance, he's nowhere near to the standards of Granit Xhaka. So, I mean, it would be a very close contest. Of course, there'd be different strategies over there. But how Spain stop Seferovic and Embolo combination on the upfront would be crucial in terms of the result of this game.
Crucial in terms of the result, but also the fact that whatever happens after tonight, Chirag, how well has Luis Enrique dealt with criticism and all the pressure around him? We keep talking of players and a lot of aspects off and on and off the pitch, but a word on Luis Enrique. This man has just, he'd be a hero if Spain go on to at least maybe reach the final. Who knows?
I think regardless of whether or not they reach the final or how they play against the Swiss today, a lot of people wrote the Spanish off before the tournament even began. And like you mentioned, team selection, death threats, missing penalties, not a single player from Real Madrid who's come through, and Real Madrid's got quite a number of good Spanish players. So regardless of all of that, they've really pulled through and they've played good football. I think the press coverage in Spain has dramatically changed over the last couple of games. All of a sudden, they have started backing the team far more, like it's 2008 and 2012 again. Having said that, it's never easy. Luis Enrique has had a lot of personal problems as well over the last couple of years. Just 2 years ago, he had an incident with his child, who unfortunately passed away. So for him to get back onto the pitch, get the Spanish team to play the way they need to play, like they're doing, not selecting the whole 26 number of people, the squad members that they were allowed to. He selected 24, I believe, before the beginning of the tournament. That takes a lot of audacity and a lot of courage and that courage filters through in the squad and how they're playing football. So yeah, I mean, just looking at it from a perspective of how the Spanish media or the Spanish or Spain themselves would react, I do think they'll get through in this game. I'm not sure about the next game after this in the semis, but I think the country would be very proud. I think they'd be very proud looking forward to the World Cup.
Absolutely.
Morata especially. I mean, the stick he's taken on, and to play the way he's played from there shows a lot of courage. And I think, again, like I mentioned, that filters through.
Yeah, absolutely. Morata along with him, Torres, probably these two have really stepped
Yeah.
up, haven't they? You know, the way their goal scoring has improved. It's been in fact sensational there. Chirag, but Chinmay, coming to you, you know, we're talking of Spain though. Remember the Indian World Cup campaign, the Cricket World Cup campaign in 2003, a heavy defeat to Australia, scratchy win against Holland, and then there was an uproar back home. They had to be, you know, they had to place security in front of certain players' homes there. You know, there was a lot of protest over the performances. Something similar around Spain as well. Plenty of criticism, and like Chirag pointed out, Enriquez himself had to deal with personal issues about a couple of years back. Now the selection controversy, Morata getting death threats. But despite that, he stepped up and he stepped up big. So there's a lot of parallels like that in sports, isn't it? And that's why it's so beautiful. Of course, again, these are not things that we endorse, the kind of pressure and the kind of threats that we see, but it's good to see that, Chinmay, the way teams are stepping up.
Absolutely. Soccer is so unique. It is like tennis. You see, in soccer, for example, the thing that happened, Czech Republic beating Netherlands. Look at the ranking. It goes for a toss. For example, Switzerland, who are placed 13th, they could beat France at 2. So you can see it has a relation with tennis. For example, in tennis in 2012, 13 rather, Roger Federer, who is invincible in Wimbledon's grass court, was defeated by a 116th ranked player. That's a uniqueness. Now, as you said, in 2010, what happened? Against the same Swiss.
Mm. Yeah, I think we lost Chinmay. There was some technical snag, but yes, he was talking about Spain's transition there. But Shuman, you know, again, I think we've got Chinmay back.
Am I
Yes,
back?
we lost you for a bit. Yes,
Am I
yes,
back?
you're back.
Yes,
You're
yes.
back live with us, Chinmay.
Okay. So I'm back like Spain. They lost the first match and they came back, went on to conquer the world. So that's the beauty of the game. There was a lot of flack in that. That was the Iniesta era. They had got all these things, Xavi's, Busquets, everyone was there, right? So what I'm suggesting is that, as you said correctly, Saurav Ganguly was the captain in 2003. They lost the first match, and there was stone pelting at the houses, and they reached the final. So it happens, turning things around. Now, Luis Enrique, why I also appreciate this person is he said that the aggressive style is my forte, and I will stick to it. See, Spain is a country in 2008 onwards, they they changed the landscape of European football. In 1970s, it was Holland under Johan Cruyff. They brought this total football into display. And then Johan Cruyff's style was carried towards tiki-taka. And so the European landscape of style of football, the long ball, physical aspect gave away to Spain's creativity. So for me, I want the game of soccer to be a spectacle, right? I'm not really critical about England. It's fine that you need to win the game. Brazil was heavily criticized.
Don't be diplomatic about England, Chinmay. Chinmay, it's too late in the day for you to be diplomatic about England. We all know. It's all out in the open. It's out there in public domain.
So why I appreciate Luis Enrique is that the Brazilian coaches in 90s, no, early 80s, they used to play flashy football. They have got Socrates, Zico, everything. They used to lose. Now they're heavily criticized. And in 1994, Alberto Pereira won in US, right? Romario's era. It was very dull, drab Brazil. Now, what will we want to look at it? Suman said it's at the end of the day, the victory. But I always subscribe to Luis Enrique because As a crowd, as a football lover from the stands, I want to see the passes. I want to see Morata. See, if you talk about the game changers for this match, Spain outscored Switzerland. They have got Embolo, which is favorite of Suman. Okay, and they have got Shakiri. Okay, but if you look at them, they have got Busquets and Morata, of course. I think as potent force, both Busquets and Morata brings more to the table than these two players. In all fairness, I would like to see Spain advancing because we can have such high flavor football for us.
That's what we're seeking, right? We're seeking favor. But Shalini Balagopal is suggesting it's going to be a walk in the park for Spain. But Shumon, it's not going to be that easy with Switzerland. Of course, this is the fourth quarterfinal in a major tournament, the first time in a European Championship. They've not gone past the quarterfinal stages, but they'll be riding high on confidence after that victory there in the round of 16. Again, yes, we've discussed the French mistakes, but then that's something they'll carry, knocking the world champions out.
Of course, and more importantly, as I mentioned, like on the heart of the midfield, there was one Granit Xhaka, who had been one of the cynosure of all the eyes, in fact, when they took on France. And throughout this competition as well, Xhaka was brilliant. And there were a lot of criticism which he faced over there in the Premier League when he plays for Arsenal. But when he dons the national team colours, he's a different player altogether. His absence in such a big game against Spain would be very, very crucial, because it's not just about the snatching which he does, but also his distribution will also be missed on the heart of the midfield. At the same time, we're talking about Switzerland, but we also have to talk about Sarabia. What a brilliant influence he has been for Spain. Ever since Spain was literally struggling to score goals, the moment he came in, they scored 10 goals in 2 matches. And he has been in the thick of things in all the goals. Ferran Torres also seemed to be a different player because of Sarabia. So these kind of things really do make some significant things over there in a team's perspective. Switzerland, of course, they'll be playing defensively today as well, as they did against France the other day. But as I said, these two teams, whenever they met, it had been close contests in the last 5 years. So it will be a crackerjack of a contest. It might go down to extra time again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we look forward to as well. Right? We keep talking about that extra time penalty shootout. That's like what makes the sport thing exciting for us. But also Belgium, Italy, Chirag, later in the night at 12:30, of course, India 12:30 in India time. And you'd said this before. If there's anyone who can beat the Italians, is the Belgium team, and if there's anybody who can beat Belgium, it's Italy. So that's going to be something really fascinating. And also, while you take that, also want to look at what would be the major threat perspective for the Belgian defense there coming up against this Italian outfit.
I think Immobile stands out in terms of how things are going to be progressing through him. I think in terms of whether or not Chiellini comes back, there's been reports which we've read that he's back in training and he's had a couple of sessions before this game. He would be a big influence into that team. It's not just about his experience and versatility as a center back, but more so about his leadership and how he can direct players in specific ways and direct play. I also feel the Italians are on a streak. We were discussing this, 32 games unbeaten. But yeah, you're right. The Belgians are the ones who can actually maybe cause a dent into that. Although we've got to keep in mind that De Bruyne and Hazard are missing from this game. And they are two big players for them, albeit Hazard might not be in full form. But De Bruyne definitely makes a big difference to that squad in terms of how they pass the ball around and how they would actually create opportunities. Having said that, if you go through the works of the last 10 days, especially one Romelu Lukaku and the comments he's come out with in terms of his comparison or him not being compared to the greats of our time. So when we're talking about Ronaldo, Messi, Lewandowski, we're talking about Haaland, all of a sudden, Lukaku's come out and said, why am I not spoken about? He often takes a lot of stick when it comes to his time at United, and now he's turned a corner at Inter. This is the big stage for him. This is a big game for the likes of Lukaku, where he can not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. Because De Bruyne is not playing, Hazard's not playing, the onus is going to fall on him. And let's be clear, if there is an Italian defense that would be a bit fidgety, with a center forward, it would be Lukaku. And Lukaku's played football in Italy for the last couple of years. He knows how these players play. He knows exactly how to run off them and where to receive the ball and get it played. I think he's going to be a major force in this game. I think it's going to be a close nail biter of a game in terms of how it's going to be played in midfield. But yeah, from the Italian perspective, like I said, Immobile would make a big difference in terms of creativity. I'm just quite interested to see how they actually line up in defense. Verratti as well is another name that comes to mind when we're talking about the Italians and how they can create in that space. So yeah, I think it's going to be quite a unique game, a game that we wouldn't have watched or felt the same if this was in a group or in any other setting. So yeah, just looking forward to it immensely.
Absolutely amazing that even Chinmay, without De Bruyne and Hazard, we're still talking of Belgium as such a potent force taking on the Italians. But also kudos to Italy and the fact that they've adapted so well to their football over the years. This is they've never won 5 consecutive games at the European Championships, and tonight they can defeat one of the best teams in this competition. And this is also a testimony to how they have remarkably carried on from and adapted so well to everything around them.
Absolutely right. Belgium has a point to prove, right? FIFA #1 for the last 3 years, right? Now, as we keep discussing, are they the chokers like the South African cricket team? Every time they stumble in the last hurdle, Chirag was right. Lukaku and all, they have a point to prove, right? That is true. But now, having said that, the most important point between Italy and Belgium will be the style of football. If you looked at yesteryears, Italy will be sitting back. I mean, for the defensive style, they were very used to. But now there is a change. Roberto Mancini has blended the team that in the defense, there will be Bonucci, Spinazzola, all these guys, Spinazzola rather, they're well equipped with defense, but up front, from the middle, like guys like Jorginho or up front, they have got all this Ciro Immobile and Insigne. It looks that they are well equipped both in defense and offense. Now, Chirag was saying about the injury issue. The latest is that this guy, Eden Hazard, has got a hamstring issue. And being a fitness coach, I know it takes a lot of time for a hamstring to recover. So he is done. He's not there. But De Bruyne, because Martinez says that he will wait for till the last moment. It's an ankle issue. I think De Bruyne has a chance to play. So don't rule him out. And if he plays, he's a playmaker, right? Now, if you think about I was talking about the game changers. If you compare between the two teams, this is the guy who can make a difference, De Bruyne, right? If you look at Italy, it's a total team effort. There is no standout guys, but I think De Bruyne and, as Chirag was saying, Lukaku, they can make a difference. So come at the hour, come at the man. If De Bruyne can change things and prove that the Red Devils are not merely FIFA #1, they're really good enough to go to the distance. I mean, they can cross the line. That's it.
Right. No, I mean, while you were all talking, I was also thinking how fascinating it has been to talk football with all of you. Sitting out of Calcutta. I remember when I was in Calcutta, there would be this whole fervor, especially around a World Cup game on Brazil and Argentina. By the way, Shimon, is it the same fervor around the Euro when we're talking about Italy, Belgium, Spain so fervently? Is it the same charisma? Is it the same passion that people take to streets? And do you get that buzz around the Euro in Calcutta?
Well, in the last 4 World Cups, it had all gone to Europe. Not even a single World Cup title has gone to South America or any part of the world. So, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to see only Brazil flags, Argentina flags all over the lanes and all, and it's been well decorated. These days, there are so many, because of the top leagues like the Premier League and the La Liga, the Bundesliga, they have been a separate fan bases. And that is the reason why you see Portuguese fan base in Kolkata. There'd be Belgium fan base in Kolkata, Spanish like Chinmoy. So in fact, there'd be, different pockets, where
My
there'd be a
#1
lot
is
of.
Argentina. I'm first Argentina, then Spain.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many Brazil fans as well. But I mean, yes, I mean, there has been a change in the supporter culture as well.
Uh,
10 years, 12 years back, people used to follow only, I mean, uh, the tournaments like World Cup and Euro Cup. These days, the Y generation, they follow the club football really closely. And that is
right.
the reason why they know the players, they know the real heroes, the key players. 4 years, I mean, once in 4 years, they used to see some outstanding talents, and people used to, chat, oh my goodness, what a good player he is. These days, those 4 years gap, it's enough to see and judge a player in a club competition. And there is a reason why there are so many fan bases.
Absolutely. And so many, you walk around the city and there's every Maidan has a football game or two lined up. There was this time in 2006 when I was in college in Calcutta, and I dared to mention before the quarterfinals that I think there's going to be a European team lifting the championship. Didn't go down very well. Didn't go down very well. I was sitting in a tea shop and discussing football early in the morning. It didn't go down very well, but it's a different thing that's what happened. But that's the passion around football. It's always Brazil or Argentina. South America rules in Calcutta football circles. But Chirag, we're talking about injury concerns around the team, and Chinmay saying, De Bruyne might possibly turn up. Also, the fact that Chileni has started training, of course, and there's Florenzi as well, who's also recovered from his injury. So, and you think that, probably even if they're 85, 90% fit, these players, they probably just push them on off the line there, across the line, and say, look, this is one last push. And that's interesting also because I'll come to that tomorrow. Jose Mourinho has suggested that England might even rest three key players against Ukraine. He's so confident about England trumping Ukraine there. So, what do you think that in such a high-profile clash, you just see maybe even if they're not 100% fit, and they try and push these key players for both teams across the line tonight? You see that happening?
Yeah, I look from the onset, and Chinmoy Dai might be able to back me up on this because he's worked so closely with athletes. It's very rare where you have professional athletes playing on a regular basis where they're 100% fit.
Yeah.
They're usually between 75 to 85 to 90% fit all the time. You're never 100% fit. So when you come close to hitting 75, 80%, 85%, mentally you're switched on that I've got to play the game. And when you've got the experience of these guys like Chiellini coming back, and if he feels he's 80% there, he's playing. There's no way he's not going to be playing. But it's just how pro athletes feel. It's their mentality that it's not about being 100% fit. It's about the mental drive to try and push through. So yeah, I mean, we've got and De Bruyne, I'm not sure about De Bruyne, but yes, if De Bruyne does have that opportunity, and they do need a bit of a change in the middle of the park at some point of time, if he's available, of course they'll stick him on, because these are players who can change games in any game, in any faction. It could be 5-a-side, it could be 11-a-side, it could be 7-a-side. So you want them on the pitch to a certain extent, and we often as an audience start judging people based on one or two performances, which is absolutely unfair. And I think from the perspective of even the press and how they view the guys who are probably going to be lining up today, there's a lot of hoo-ha about what the scoreline is going to be, how tight the game is going to be. But I actually think both of these teams are very well prepared, and they have a couple of gears to go as well, especially the Belgians. They have a couple of gears that they can really pick up whilst the game is moving on. We've touched upon this before. From a perspective of formation, they can change formations very quickly. But if there was one team that can counter that, it would be the Italians. Right. Jorginho's had a brilliant tournament, Premier League this season as well. And so I actually feel that regardless of whether someone is 100% fit or 80% fit, when you have the likes of Chiellini, Florenzi, De Bruyne, they will get onto the pitch. If they're close enough, they will get onto the pitch. Also, you've got to remember Chiellini is probably playing his last tournament, so I'm not quite sure you can keep him out of the pitch if he's even, even if. Yeah, even if he's 35% fit, I don't think you're going to keep him off the pitch.
You'd have to tie him down to take him to, not let him.
Exactly.
Probably
yeah.
It would be the coach would have to, sort of keep him in the loop. But we'll come to predictions also. Yes, Chima, you wanted to make a point about.
Rajesh, can I come in with your permission? As you are talking about injury, I give you some examples. in this big stage, Chirag was right. The drive comes from within. Injury to an extent, see, if you are incapacitated, then it's fine, you can't move. But 70% you're on. 1974 World Cup. You know, Franz Beckenbauer played with a broken arm.
Yeah.
In 1994, in the first match, Franco Baresi, the Italian defender, had as a tear in the knee. He got operated. He came back, played the semi-final and the final. That's really in 1994. So there are history. I mean, you can find so many players, despite being injured, beyond imagination, they have come up and performed. There's scores of them. So I think De Bruyne will be from inside motivated, and as Chirag is very right, there's 60-70%, whatever. A lot of players carries injury. For example, Van Persie, Robin Van Persie used to say that he had a adductor issue for 3 years. He played through the pain. So that happens. Diego Maradona, he was hammered in the knees. How did he get addicted in Napoli? It used to take cocaine to relieve the pain because cocaine is an anodyne. So footballers and athletes, they have to overcome the pain barrier. I think De Bruyne will play for me, and that is the hour really to prove yourself. You go over the, rise above the pain barrier. And now your prediction.
Most of these players, if they are remotely fit, that's what we were talking about. Then, you'd probably see them in action tonight in that game. It's good to just that kind of a game it is. But of course, we'll come to prediction, and since this prediction, we'll again hit straight to Shumon there. Which two teams do you see qualifying? And you'll have to, since it's you, we'll also ask for score predictions from the others. Chinmoy and Chirag will just ask them who they think will reach the semis from here on.
Yeah, may I add a couple of things?
Yes, please.
Yeah, may I add a couple of things? Firstly, I think the Switzerland versus Spain match lineup has been announced. Eric Garcia has been benched. So as we were discussing yesterday, Paul Torres has got his place back. Good thing for Spain. So Spain will start as favorites. Switzerland, underdogs. I'll go for a 2-1 scoreline in favor of Spain.
Okay.
Now, if it comes in terms of Italy versus Belgium, if you see the history between these two teams, the last two meetings, one had been won by Italy, one had been won by Belgium. Close contest. If you see the two strikers, Romelu Lukaku, every 86 minutes, he scored a goal in this Euro. Ciro Immobile, every 88 minutes, he scored a goal in this Euro Cup. Crackerjack of a contest. I predict Italy will start as favorites just because of their defense. Close contest. It might be once again 2-1 in favor of Italy.
2-1 Spain, 2-1 Italy. Therefore, Shumon, Chirag, your pick.
I'm going to go for Spain for the first game. I think it's going to be it's going to be a high-scoring game. For whatever reason, I feel when you look at how the Swiss played after French scored 3 goals, they actually played very fluidly. Yes, the French dropped back; they made a few bad decisions, and I don't think the Spanish defense is going to be as strong. The Croatians also came back against the Spanish. So I think the Spanish will probably go a couple of goals ahead, but the Swiss might come back round, and we'll see a close game. I'm hoping it's going to be somewhere close to not going into extra time, but it will be probably one of those 85, 87-minute goal from a Spanish header that's probably going to win the game for Spain. And from the Belgians and Italian perspective, close game. I agree with that. It's going to be fought out in midfield, but I think Lukaku's got this one. I think Lukaku's going to get a brace and push them through. And if there's anyone that can defeat the Italians, like I said, and I stand by it, it's the Belgians.
Okay, so Spain and Belgium for Chirag. Chinmoy, your picks. Do I need to even?
My take, see, I'll lend some support from Shuman because he's a person, right? Whatever he says is correct. Spain versus Switzerland, I think Spain will win. And as Chirag says, maybe more than 2-1, little higher, because Spanish team wants to be very aggressive. Okay, now for the match between Spain and Switzerland, one Spanish reporter has put it, it's a match between an irresistible force versus an immovable object? Are we looking at a shootout? I don't know really. But for me, I think it is in favor of Spain. And now, so far as Italy and Belgium is concerned, it's a very tough thing. I think very tough. Now, I think I will be standing in between Suman and Chirag, right?
Isn't it
So,
always safe to go with your head over your heart or your heart over your head? I'm just going with Spain and Italy from the two quarterfinals tonight. I just hope, I've just been wanting, I've been saying that from the start of the tournament. Want Spain and Italy to try and make an impact in the later stages of the tournament. It'll be great to see that. And of course, England are going to take on Ukraine tomorrow in their quarterfinal in the Czech Republic. Of course, they'll also want to see whether what they are doing there around the quarterfinals. So there's plenty of action there, of course, and we'll be through to the semifinals of the Euro 2020 as well. But thank you so much again, gentlemen, Chirag, Shumon, Chinmoy. We've discussed the two games in depth tonight. It will be interesting. Of course, we'll come back with more tomorrow. It's England playing their quarterfinal. There'll be plenty of excitement and action around that as well. We'll come back with plenty more. But thank you so much for joining us on Sports Today. Thank you so much for following us on for these Euro 2020 conversations. There'll be plenty more on Sports Today around cricket, the Olympics, and all other sports. So thank you so much. Do subscribe to the platform and do keep supporting. Thank you very much. Have a very good evening.